Exclusive material. The Ukrainian armed forces have managed to slow down the enemy's advance near Toretsk, although the lying Russian Ministry of Death, also known as the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, has reported 3 times about capturing the city. Another piece of good news. Under the same Toretsk, the Azov Brigade is already actively using Western weapons. For 10 years, straight until the middle of last year, Azov, they didn't have such an opportunity. Military correspondent for TSN, Andrei Tsaplenko, has returned from the front lines and knows exactly the chances of holding the defense line. There is in Toretsk exclusive material. For your attention.
After Trump's announcement of a future meeting with Russian dictator and war criminal Putin, little has changed here in the Toretsk direction, at least for the Azov Brigade. The Russian infantry is pushing forward and the brigade's fighters are stopping them, and for now they have what they need. Finally, Azov has started receiving powerful Western equipment, specifically these probably the newest artillery systems in the world, the Dita. The fresh Czech Dita guns made last year have significantly increased the capabilities of the Azov Brigade. It can, if needed, reach the enemy deep in their rear at a distance of 39 kilometers. To this position, almost everything is done automatically, from loading to aiming.
It aims itself, so the entire loading system is automated. It also approaches the firing position automatically. You only need to press the shot button mechanically.
The Dita can fire several shells on different trajectories, but in such a way that they hit the same target almost simultaneously, so there's no escaping it. The main advantages over Russian artillery are accuracy, range, and speed. This makes the Czech system an indispensable element of counter-battery warfare. But counter-battery warfare in Toretsk is not just about hunting enemy guns. Right now, the fighters are trying to stop the advance of the Russian infantry. To do this, it's necessary to neutralize the drone control point that covers the advance of the enemy infantry.
It hit the target area from where they launch.
The Ukrainian group in the Toretsk area is currently operating as a single mechanism that grinds down the enemy, who has already claimed several times that they have taken Toretsk. Russian occupiers even climbed to the top of the Toretsk mine to raise the tricolor flag above it, but Ukrainian artillery interrupted the Russian mission with several precise strikes. The FPV drone shot down the tricolor rag. Next, the 28th Brigade, with the support of the 2nd Battalion of the Kolodny Yar fighters, raised our blue and yellow flag on a tall structure. But the Russian commanders continue to send disposable soldiers with new tricolors for media videos.
Raise the flag. We need to show that we really took Toretsk. There are our flags. No, that's not true. Toretsk is below us. Part of it is below us. We are fighting for it now and will continue to fight for it.
Toretsk is one of the priorities of the Russian offensive. Despite all the statements from the Russian Ministry of Defense, the enemy hasn't taken it, but they have effectively divided the city in half, capturing its central part.
We're currently holding about 50%, maybe just a little less. Maybe 1 or 2 people are sneaking into our rear, and the enemy reports that they have taken everything, saying, we have taken the mine figuratively, or we have taken Toretsk, because there are 2 of our guys on the outskirts. But we are currently in the center, and the fact that 2 people have sneaked in is temporary. We'll kill them no matter what. Not tomorrow, then the day after. But that's 100%.
In small groups, the occupiers are trying to infiltrate between the positions of Ukrainian forces in the Toretsk area. Sometimes they succeed, but most of these groups are suicide squads.
Mostly. It's reconnaissance alive. And conditionally, out of a group of 18 people, theoretically only 2 survive, who just pass on some movements or any information.
This wounded occupier chose life and is crawling on his knees to surrender to the positions of the Azov Brigade.
He just crawls into the basement and says, I don't understand why this war is even necessary. So, why did you come here if you don't understand why this war is necessary? Patronymik.
The Russians took out the Azov drone.
Then your drone stopped and dropped me some water. He's like, drink, it's not poisoned, don't be afraid. They were talking to me directly through the drone with a speaker. Yes, I drank, and he said, if you're going to surrender, raise your left hand. I raised my left hand.
He saved the occupier's life because his own people wanted to eliminate him.
And when he saw our drones, he said, get close to 200. I pretended that those were for 200. Our drones hovered above me, circled around, and then flew away. Could your drones have finished you off? Yes, if you give up, they can finish you off.
3 stormtroopers survived from his group. Everyone ended up in captivity with the Azov fighters. All 3 were contract soldiers who went to a foreign country of their own accord. The motive? Raise money.
We're just pushing all of Russia into mortgages. You're saying really scary things right now, you know? You're talking about your mortgage, which, well, we don't need here at all. You're comparing this to people's lives, you understand? Because of the mortgage, I don't know, because of a criminal record, some of your... You killed here. They could have killed...
Behind Tarevka, the Ukrainian army is building several lines of defense with bunkers, firing points, and dragon's teeth. If they can't hold the city, they'll fall back here.
Artillery units work the same way during a withdrawal, and so do the mortarmen. Only later will the infantry actually enter these bunkers. They enter a prepared position, and already under combat operations, the infantryman perfects it to an ideal state.
This is a section of defense being built by Azov. Everything, as they say in the classics, but the net above is already a modern improvisation.
The so-called anti-drone defense is meant to prevent drops. If an explosion happens here, all the debris and shrapnel will scatter above.
This line of defense will slow down the Russians' movement towards Konstantinovka if they manage to capture Toretsk.
Destroyed houses and daily shelling. This is exactly how Zolotchev lives, a border town in the Kharkiv region. The Russians, which are shelling it with everything they have, with guided bombs, artillery, and Grad rockets. Residents are forced to sleep in basements, but despite everything, shops, the post office, and social institutions are still operating. In a city that has been living under daily shelling for a long time, TSN correspondent Yulia Boyko visited. We're watching her exclusive...
Morning in Zolotchev doesn't start with coffee. Shells scattered across the streets, debris from munitions, craters on the roads. Here, people are used to the silence not lasting long. This is the physical education and health complex of the Children's and Youth Sports School. Russian aviation attacked the building twice. Last year, in May, and now at the beginning of February. Now, it's just ruins.
Up until this moment, the dome of the physical education and health complex of the sports school was still intact. The windows, the doors, all of this was of course a bit damaged, but the frame itself was intact. At the moment, we can already see that the crater has broken through both the walls and the floor with debris.
The Russians are targeting objects that the community has restored after previous strikes. A dormitory for displaced persons. A vivid example. Even before the full-scale war began, it was specially equipped for displaced persons from the Luhansk and Donetsk regions. And in 2022, a strike hit here, and that attack was not the last one. By the end of 2023, the building was fully restored, and new furniture was brought in so that the displaced persons could live here as well. But just 6 months later, the Russians had almost completely destroyed the building. The enemy is hitting the community with everything they can. FPV drones, artillery, Grad rockets, and shells. The residents of Zolotchev no longer count the shelling. The occupiers are specifically targeting residential and social infrastructure. On Christmas Eve, a residential area was attacked. One missile destroyed the entire street. One of the residents was killed. My son played and had a blast.
The son was playing, and the daughter was watching TV. We read that Kap na Zolotchev, but we, mostly didn't react to them before. We believed it would fall in the field, not reach us. It did. But it won't reach us. But unfortunately, it did reach us.
Now, as soon as the alarm sounds, everyone goes to the basements.
We're sitting behind these doors with the canned goods and everything. Over there, way over there. How often do you have to go down to the shelter? Often, almost every day. After it hit here, it's scary now.
However, despite this, Larissa doesn't want to leave.
The thing is, we've already gotten used to it here. Despite the difficulties, no matter what, we have gas, we have water, and we have food. So for now, we have all of this. As long as they don't shoot, don't bang, and we don't have to hide in the basement.
Before the full-scale invasion, there were 28,000 people living in Zolotchev. At the moment, only 20,000 are left. Before the cab hit, a couple lived in this house who had just bought it. But after the explosion, it was practically completely destroyed, just like the yard. But despite this, the owner of the house still comes here to tidy up her flower bed because she believes that she will be able to rebuild her house and return here.